All right, so I know the Sharks made many different moves today, but I feel like the Brent Burns trade kind of deserves its own video. The Sharks, after having Brent Burns for 11 seasons, trade him to the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for, with Lane Peterson, in exchange for Steven Lorentz, E2 Makiniemi, and a conditional third-round pick next year. So that marks the end of the Brent Burns era in San Jose. And I really think it ends kind of the whole era that we had really with that Stanley Cup team. I feel like that core is kind of gone now. Evander Kane's gone, you know, obviously Thornton and Marlowe and Joe Pavelski, all those guys that, you know, had great playoff runs, and now Burns, they're gone. And, you know, it's hard to accept that, but, you know, it's business. And I think the thing that's just upsetting for me is the fact that the Sharks didn't really get much in return. Lorentz is an average player. He's only really had 2 years in the NHL. And I think, you know, it hurts a little bit. It's like having a guy, you know, you've been a fan of, you've had for a while. And I mean, I'm an owner of 2 Brent Burns jerseys myself. And so to lose him, I'm not only am I losing, you know, a player I've loved watching, but I'm also sort of losing a part of me that was a Sharks fan because of him. I really liked Brent Burns. Everything he brought to the team, I feel like he was the face of the franchise for a while. And I know he sort of did get progressively worse as time went on in his career. I mean, he is getting older. He's been in the league for 18 years, 11 of those with the Sharks. But you got to remember, I mean, Brent Burns, 2017, he was the Norris Trophy winner. He played all 82 games that year, and he was pretty incredible that season, scoring 29 goals. And that was his career high. He, you know, had multiple seasons where he had 20-plus goals. And, I mean, he's a defenseman, so you got to remember that's not something that is super common. On top of that, the Sharks also included in the trade Lane Peterson. He was hardly with the Sharks. I think he was with us for 1 season, so I wasn't really upset about that. But he was mostly an Arizona Coyote. I believe we added him last year, so I didn't have any attachment to him. He didn't even have a goal last year. He had 2 assists. And so, yeah, I wasn't really upset about that. But I think the fact that we lost Brent Burns, it's just, you know, something that it marks sort of the end of this era. And I know the Sharks have kind of publicly stated that they don't want to rebuild. They want to kind of stick in the competitiveness column, if you will. But the problem with the Sharks right now is not only are their moves not super intelligent, it's that Mike Grier just really, I don't think, is thinking about what the Sharks need. We don't need another. We also got another goalie prospect. Like, we don't need another goalie prospect. We have, you know, many different goalies. And if we're going to trade a guy who can offer at least something to the team, score 10 goals a year like Brent Burns, that's useful, in opposed to having, you know, a couple of guys that are probably going to play for the San Jose Barracuda. I'm guessing Lorentz probably will spend some time there, and I can almost assure you that AHL goalie that we acquired, Makiniemi, will probably spend most, if not all, of the year there. The Sharks have Aiden Hill already in net. They have Reimer. They have Kokkonen for now. I mean, like, I can go on. So it doesn't make sense. And on top of that, I think the thing that hurts the most is the Sharks retained 34% of Burns' cap hit. And I mean, that's only a third, but to think that, you know, we have to still have that when Burns also was making, I believe, $8 million AAV, it's not something that's very good. I believe the Hurricanes will have a like 5.3 million AAV cap hit, and the Sharks, I think, will have the remainder of that. So what, like 2.5 million roughly. So that's just, it's unfortunate. You know, I think the Sharks needed to get rid of Burns at some point, and I think maybe now is the right time. I don't blame them for like getting rid of Burns. I think that was going to happen, but the fact that like they still have to pay him a good chunk of that salary, and then they don't really get much in return, I feel like today, and I'll talk about the other signings in a separate video, but I feel like Mike Grier just doesn't really know what he's doing. I know he's new. I'll cut him some slack a little bit, but I'm really concerned about how the Sharks are going to be this year. I just don't think they're really built to compete. I think the Sharks have just sort of blown everything up, and they're obtaining these really bad contracts for the future. But that's a discussion for a different day. The Hurricanes acquire former All-Star, 2017 Norris Trophy winner, Brent Burns. One of the greatest Sharks ever, I think. I mean, our history isn't super lengthy, but I think he is one of the best. And we're going to miss him, right? I mean, I've grown up watching him. He kind of got me into the sport. So that's going to do it, guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this. I'll see you guys later. And yeah, go Sharks.